I was in York recently, and I encountered this ghost sign, and I didn't think to get any good footage of it. Nevertheless, I am doing a video about it because artistic integrity, never heard of it. Bile beans were a Victorian patent medicine, and by patent medicine I mean quack remedy. They were invented by Charles Ford, an Australian chemist who got the recipe from the explorer Captain Cook, who in turn learned it from the Australian Aborigines, who had been using it as a potent medicine for centuries. Ford used powerful science to refine the recipe to the point where the beneficial effects could be compressed into a pill the size of a bean. By which I mean, none of that is true. Bile beans were invented by a Canadian travelling salesman named Charles Fulford, who got his start working for his uncle's patent medicine company. When he arrived in Australia in the 1890s, he decided to come up with his own form of snake oil. Bile beans were really nothing special in terms of their ingredients. Rhubarb, licorice, menthol, cascara, and charcoal. Fortunately, no actual bile. The name is an allusion to a very old piece of medical theory, namely the idea that the body was governed by the balance of humours. This theory certainly goes back to Hippocrates, although it may go back even further. The humours were blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, and if any of these were deficient or excessive, that was what caused you to become ill. Disorders of the digestive system were thought to be caused by an excess of yellow bile, hence someone who suffered from indigestion or constipation was described as being bilious. Later on, other ingredients were added to the recipe, including aloe, ginger, peppermint oil, and soap. Bile beans were a laxative, and they may have helped settle your stomach, but this being a phony medicine, of course it was claimed that they could do pretty much anything. They were advertised as a remedy for headaches, obesity, acne, tiredness, failure to thrive, the flu, and female weakness, which I think is how they used to say period pain. In short, they were absolutely shameless. If there was a bug going around, the chances were that bile beans were the cure. If you were on the brink of death, bile beans could revive you. They literally claimed that. The bile beans manufacturing company might have been medically dubious. Might have been. But they were experts in marketing. When they arrived in Britain in 1899, they spent a fortune on publicity. They put up posters and sent out flyers. They bought adverts in the newspapers and later on radio. They produced reams of sworn testimonials to miracle cures from ordinary people. They produced recipe books, puzzle books, and even a piece of sheet music called the Bile Beans March, presumably intended to accompany you on your march from your bed to the toilet. In 1905, the company ran into legal issues. A chemist named George Davidson was selling a product called Davidson's Bile Beans, and the OG bile bean manufacturers sued him for passing off. Basically, passing off is when you use a name for a product or company that might cause people to confuse it with the original. This seemed like a pretty clear-cut case of passing off. Bile beans were a widely recognised patent medicine. Davidson was selling a medicine by the same name. A consumer could easily be misled into thinking they were one and the same. Lord Ardwall, the judge presiding over the case, considered the evidence and ruled that the Bile Beans Company weren't getting squat. Their medicine was a fraud and their claims were lies. Sales collapsed almost overnight and the company declared bankruptcy on... Only joking. Hardly anyone reported on the case, which I'm sure had nothing to do with the amount of money the Bile Beans Company spent on advertising in all the outlets that might talk about it. Bile beans remained hugely popular for decades to come, and wouldn't disappear from the shelves until the 1980s, when I guess there was already enough bile to go around. These days they're largely forgotten, except as a historical curiosity. Of course, there are still plenty of people willing to be taken in by pseudoscientific nonsense, but this particular form of pseudoscientific nonsense has fallen out of style. This sign in York, which was restored in 2012, might be the medicine's last claim to fame, as thousands of people drive past and think, "Ew, gross." Well, I hope this video didn't imbalance your humours. If you enjoyed it, then please click the like button to cure all ills. Also, I have sworn testimony from an ordinary viewer who said that when he subscribed, it instantly cured his arthritis and caused his hair to grow back, so maybe you could try that. I don't have the testimony to hand, though, so you can't see it right now. Like I say, this video was a bit of an odd thing that I made almost on an impulse because I was curious about what bile beans were. It doesn't quite fit in with anything else on this channel, but I don't know. If people like it, then I might do more of these general historical oddity videos. Thanks as always to my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. You are the miracle cure to all my known diseases. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.